Chapter 16 of The Virginian. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Virginian by Owen Wister. Chapter 16. The Game and the Nation. Last Act. It has happened to you, has it not, to wake in the morning and wonder for a while where on earth you are? Thus I came half to life in the caboose, hearing voices but not the actual words at first. But presently, "Hathaway," said someone more clearly. "Portland, 1291." This made no special stir in my intelligence, and I drowsed off again to the pleasant rhythm of the wheels. The little shock of stopping next brought me to, somewhat, with the voices still round me, and when we were again in motion I heard, "Rosebud, Portland, 1279." These figures jarred me awake, and I said, "It was 1291 before," and sat up in my blankets. The greeting they vouchsafed and the sight of them clustering expressionless in the caboose brought last evening's uncomfortable memory back to me. Our next stop revealed how things were going today. "Forsyth," one of them read on the station. "Portland, 1266." They were counting the lessening distance westward. This was the undercurrent of war. It broke on me as I procured fresh water at Forsyth and made some toilet in their stolid presence. We were drawing nearer the Rawhide station, the point, I mean, where you left the railway for the new mines. Now Rawhide station lay this side of Billings. The broad path of desertion would open ready for their feet when the narrow path to duty and Sunk Creek was still some 50 miles more to wait. Here was Trampas's great strength. He need make no move meanwhile, but lie low for the immediate temptation to front and waylay them, and win his battle over the deputy foreman. But the Virginian seemed to find nothing save enjoyment in this sunny September morning, and ate his breakfast at Forsyth serenely. That meal done, and that station gone, our caboose took up again its easy trundle by the banks of the Yellowstone. The mutineers sat for a while digesting in idleness. "What's your scar?" inquired one at length, inspecting casually the neck of his neighbor. "Foolishness," the other answered. "Yourn?" "Mine." "Well, I don't know but I prefer to have myself to thank for a thing," said the first. "I was displayin' myself," continued the second. "One day last summer it was. We come on a big snake by Torrey Creek Corral. The boys got bettin' pretty lively that I dasn't make my word good as to dealin' with him, so I loped my cayuse full tilt by Mr. Snake, and swung down and ketched him up by the tail from the ground, and cracked him same as a whip, snapped his head off. You saw it done?" he said to the audience. The audience nodded wearily. "But the loose head flew agin me, and the fangs caught. I was pretty sick for a while." "It don't pay to be clumsy," said the first man. "If you'd snapped the snake away from you instead of toward you, its head would have whirled off into the brush, same as they do with me." "How like a knife cut your scar looks," said I. "Don't it?" said the snake snapper. "There's many that gets fooled by it." "An antelope knows a snake is his enemy," said another to me. "Ever seen a buck circling round and round a rattler?" "I have always wanted to see that," said I heartily, for this I knew to be a respectable piece of truth. "It's worth seeing," the man went on. "After the buck gets close in, he gives an almighty jump up in the air, and down comes his 4 hoofs in a bunch right on top of Mr. Snake. Cuts him all to hash. Now you tell me how the buck knows that." Of course I could not tell him, and again we sat in silence for a while, friendlier silence, I thought. "A skunk'll kill you worse than a snake bite," said another presently. "No, I don't mean that way," he added, for I had smiled. "There is a brown skunk down in Arkansas, kind of prairie dog brown. Littler than our variety he is. And he is mad the whole year round, same as a dog gets. Only the dog has a spell and dies, but this here Arkansas skunk is mad right along, and it don't seem to interfere with his business in other respects. Well, suppose you're camping out, and suppose it's a hot night, or you're in a hurry, and you've made camp late, or anyway you haven't got inside any tent, but you have just bedded down in the open. Skunk comes traveling along and walks on your blankets. You're warm. He likes that, same as a cat does. And he tramps with pleasure and comfort, same as a cat. And you move. You get bit, that's all. And you die of hydrophobia. Ask anybody. Most extraordinary, said I. But did you ever see a person die from this? No, sir, never happened to. My cousin at Bald Knob did. Died? No, sir, saw a man. But how do you know they're not sick skunks? No, sir, they're well skunks, well as anything. You'll not meet skunks in any state of the Union more robust than them in Arkansas, and thick. That's awful true, sighed another. I have buried hundreds of dollars worth of clothes in Arkansas. Why didn't you travel in a sponge bag? Inquired Scipio, and this brought a slight silence. Speaking of bites, spoke up a new man, how's that? He held up his thumb. My, breathed Scipio, must have been a lion. The man wore a wounded look. I was hunting owl eggs for a botanist from Boston, he explained to me. Chiropodist, weren't he? Said Scipio. Or maybe a somnambulator? No, honest, protested the man with the thumb, so that I was sorry for him and begged him to go on. I'll listen to you, I assured him, and I wondered why this politeness of mine should throw one or two of them into stifled mirth. Scipio, on the other hand, gave me a disgusted look and sat back sullenly for a moment, and then took himself out on the platform where the Virginian was lounging. The young feller wore knee pants and ever so thick spectacles with a half-moon cut in 'em, resumed the narrator, and he carried a tin box strung to a strap I took for his lunch till it flew open on him and a horn toad hustled out. Then I was sure he was a botanist, or whatever you say they're called. Well, he would have owl eggs, them little prairie owl that some claim can turn their head clean around and keep a watchin' you, only that's nonsense. We was riding through that prairie dog town, used to be on the flat just after you crossed the South Fork of Powder River on the Buffalo Trail, and I said I'd dig an owl nest out for him if he was willin' to camp till I dug it. I wanted to know about them owls some myself, if they did live with the dogs and snakes, you know. He broke off, appealing to me. Oh, yes, I told him eagerly. So while the botanist went glaring around the town with his glasses to see if he could spot a prairie dog and an owl using the same hole, I was digging in a hole I'd seen an owl run down. And that's what I got. He held up his thumb again. The snake, I exclaimed. Yes, sir, Mr. Rattler was keeping house that day. Took me right there. I hauled him out of the hole hanging to me. 8 rattles. 8, said I. A big one. Yes, sir. Thought I was dead. But the woman. The woman? Said I. Yes, woman. Didn't I tell you the botanist had his wife along? Well, he did. And she acted better than the man, for he was rosin his head and shouting he had no whiskey, and he didn't guess his knife was sharp enough to amputate my thumb, and none of us chewed, and the doctor was 20 miles away, and if he had only remembered to bring his ammonia, well, he was screeching out most everything he knew in the world, and without arranging it any neither. But she just clawed his pocket and burrowed and kept yelling, "Give him the stone, Augustus!" And she whipped out one of them Injun medicine stones, first one I ever seen, and she clapped it onto my thumb, and it started in right away. What did it do? Said I. Sucked, like blotting paper does. Soft and funny it was, and gray. They get 'em from elk's stomachs, you know. And when it had sucked the poison out of the wound, off it falls on my thumb by itself. And I thanked the woman for saving my life that capable and keeping her head that cool. I never knowed how excited she had been till afterward. She was awful shocked. I suppose she started to talk when the danger was over, said I, with deep silence around me. No, she didn't say nothing to me, but when her next child was born, it had 8 rattles. Din now rose wild in the caboose. They rocked together. The enthusiast beat his knee tumultuously.